Welcome back, everybody. How are you doing this morning? Are you bearing with us as we work through some technical issues? Yeah? We're all agile, right? Hard crowd. Okay. We will get to the main content here in just a second. I wanted to welcome everybody back to day 2 of How I Pendo Deep Dives. We had some amazing sessions yesterday, and we're going to have some even more amazing sessions today. Our first one for today is demonstrating the impact of your awesome analytics work. Our speaker is kind of like Bono or Madonna. He is so famous that he only has one name. I would love to introduce you to Drew. He is a senior director of product analytics at Thompson Reuters. In his role, he's scaled TR's product analytics team to lead data-driven decision-making and influence hundreds of product decisions across TR's product portfolio. Let's welcome Drew.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to demonstrating the impact of your awesome analytics work. It really is an honor to be up here and have you all here today and get to talk about something that my team has built and been working on over the past couple years. And actually, as a former musical theater kid, it's just kind of cool to be up here again. I did try to do Seussical. Pendo nixed that, but we'll get a group together for next year and pitch it again, so let me know if you're interested. Okay, so before we begin, who here is working on or maybe hoping to use Pendo to create some awesome, actionable insights to help their team? So show of hands here. All right, good, lots of you. I was hoping so. Okay, now second one, and this question, if you don't have your hand up, everyone might be a little bit jealous. So just a warning. Who here has struggled before to demonstrate the impact of these awesome insights that you are creating? So show of hands as well. Awesome. So you are definitely in the right place. So today, you're going to end this session with a framework for how you can show value for your analytics work, and you can apply it to the type of team you have, or if the way I've applied it works for you, you can steal it, use it, it's all yours, okay? So, as was mentioned before, my name is Drew. I do have a last name, it's Hardin, Senior Director of Product Analytics, and I work for Thompson Reuters. We are really, really heavy users of Pendo. We have millions of monthly active users, at least probably 150 different products that are using Pendo today. My team uses it really heavily for analytics, and our product teams as well are using it for NPS, guides, all of that sort of stuff. So we're pretty big users of Pendo. A little bit of background you might need to know. So Thomson Reuters, you may know us for Reuters News. We won't be talking about that today. Today we're going to talk about the really exciting part of our business, which is legal and tax and accounting software. So don't applaud all at once. Some of the brands you might know if you are in this space are Westlaw, Practical Law, Legal Tracker, HighQ, UltraTax, OneSource. And if you're not in this space, hopefully your lawyers and accountants know them too. They're pretty cutting edge. We have AI models active in legal research and tax research, and we're doing a lot of stuff there. And then the second thing is product analytics. So we exist as a centralized team of about 30, and our job is to work really closely with these product teams to help them be data-driven, make data-driven decisions, understand how to use analytics, and all of these sorts of things. Primarily the remit of our team as well is that we're working closely with product teams, but today we're also working as well with marketing and sales and other teams that are trying to influence positive product results. So we can really span the whole company at this point. Today's program broken up into 5 different sections. First, we're going to talk about why we're actually here trying to demonstrate the value of analytics. Second, I'm going to tell you a bit about the things we tried before we got to the framework we're actually using. Third, I'm going to talk about how we built this framework and arrived at our whole decision framework at this point. Fourth, I will share some results and how we're iterating from there. And then unfortunately, I've learned the session will be cut a little bit short. We won't do a Q&A today, but I'll be around for the rest of the day. I will probably be right in front of the stage for Rev Run, and I'm definitely happy to chat at any point. Why are we actually trying to demonstrate the value of analytics? And this is a really common problem, and I don't just mean from the show of hands earlier. This talk is actually happening because I was here last year, and during a Q&A session, someone was asking, hey, how do we show the value of analytics? And there was a large discussion with the audience, and we didn't really reach a great answer. And I realized, wait a second, I've solved this problem in my own way. I should come back and talk about it. And sure enough, there seemed to be enough people interested to get me back up here. Now, for me personally, when I became the analytics director at TR, it was a new team. We were just getting our footing under us. And there was a need to show the value of why we were investing all of this in analytics. I mean, between Pendo, between 30 team members, it's a pretty serious investment. Second, I'm coming in, I'm a new director. Third, new team, new analysts. And my analysts are ambitious. I love their ambition. They were all very eager to prove the value of what they were doing as well, right? And then finally, the last thing on my list is I'm not the first analytics team at TR. We've got probably 5 or 6 more. And when I started, they'd get together every quarter, and they'd go through and they'd say, hey, this dashboard is $20 million, and this dashboard was $10 million. Hey, Drew, what do you got? So the pressure was on for me to prove myself, for our team to prove ourselves, and for us to show in this context of all these other teams that we are really here creating value. So what did we try? And I'm going to dig into this for a little bit because there are a whole bunch of pitfalls that we encountered, and I'm going to guess that some other people here have encountered them as well. So these are things to watch out for as you are trying to figure out your own framework for how you demonstrate the value of analytics. So first thing, we decided, hey, you know what? I'm going to this quarterly call and other teams are saying we tried or we have this dashboard, it's part of a $20 million project, thus this is a $20 million project. So we were counting the entire value of the projects that we were supporting. And this looks great on paper, but then again, when I go to my boss and he'd say, hey, how's your new team doing? And I'd say, well, look, we have created $100 million of value. He'd go, that's amazing, where is it? I'd say, well, okay, it's more complex than that. So you couldn't really ever prove the value. And then what would also happen is we're really close partners with product teams. And it would really frustrate these new partners of ours who were just building these new relationships when they'd hear, oh, we're actually saying that we're counting the whole $20 million of what they did. So that was definitely not okay. So we figure, all right, well, if we can't count the whole thing, let's dig a layer deeper, right? Let's actually try to get together and agree on, analytics contributed 5% or 10% or some portion of this project's total value. But here, we just found ourselves in this zero-sum game where now us and our product partners and engineering and marketing and sales are basically fighting for slices in a pie that we hadn't even baked yet. The project wasn't done, and yet somehow I needed to say, oh, I'm doing $2 million worth of work. It was a waste of time, and again, it fractured these partnerships that we were really, really hoping to build. So finally, we decided, well, what is the one thing we can actually count? So let's say we're building a dashboard, or a much more common project for us is we have a ton of products, some of them get a little older, and when we want to create a new version, what analytics will do is we'll dig into the inner workings of the old project and figure out, okay, well, this feature is loved, this feature is hated, rebuild this, get rid of this, do this first, here's how the migration is going, and there's all this stuff happening, and what we'd end up trying to do is say, okay, well, we've saved X hours of labor from a product manager digging into this. And maybe we were able to cut a month of development time, and you could put hours to this. But here's the problem. If you're an analyst, if you're an analytics director, your job isn't creating efficiency. You are creating insights. And those insights are worth more than the few hours you are saving from somebody who may have taken the wrong path, because they're also generating sales for customers. They are also making customers like your products more. So this last one just felt absolutely deflating to our team to really reduce us to to such kind of efficiency metrics. So none of this worked. And we tried one last thing as well, is I went out to academia. So prior to getting into the research and analytics world, I did a master's in consumer behavior. So I was able to scratch my itch of doing some research. And I did actually find some interesting information. So here, and I'll get out of the way because this slide is worth taking a picture of if you're building a new program. We found multiple studies that do show that being data-driven will add 5 to 8% to your productivity, where productivity is measured as sales. So we thought, hey, great, we could take 5 to 8% of the new sales, but then where this kind of got stuck was sometimes maybe we're doing one project, like, hey, I'm helping you fix your NPS. Sometimes I'm doing 10 projects because we're rebuilding an entire product and doing a bunch of different things. So you couldn't really say both of those are worth 5 to 8% of your sales because everyone's going to get frustrated and it seemed a little ridiculous. But if you've got a new team and you're trying to build up an analytics function, this is great proof for you. So those are the pitfalls that we encountered. What we ended up realizing, though, is we need to do this our way. Because when we sat back and we thought, what are we here to actually deliver? Some measurable quantity of dollars was never actually part of that. So step one of this framework is take time to figure out what is your team actually here to do. If it is deliver dollar value, I'm sorry, you're going to have to be stuck with that for a bit, but it's unlikely that that's the case. Usually we're hearing about being data-driven, making better decisions, this sort of stuff, and not really just fitting what other teams might be doing. So we went back to our mission. And the mission of my team is that product analytics partners with product teams to create data-driven understanding, insight, and solutions that inform decisions and empower Thompson Reuters to achieve our objectives. And my team's really close to this mission. When our team started, we had one of those really high-level visions that you couldn't really act on. And we got all the analysts together and we said, what does it actually look like for us to do this? And we arrived here. And as we dug deeper into this, we realized informed decisions is this tangible thing that we could start looking at, and we could really focus on informing decisions as we go and try to measure our impact, because after all, that's what we're here to do. Everyone was aligned, that's what we're here to do. So let's start counting that. And we ended up landing on a goal that we would influence 250 product decisions. And actually, I switched the word to influence here. You're going to hear me use influence or inform interchangeably. But I like influence because it's a little more punchy. Like inform, we're giving over information. Influence is we're actually making sure that someone's taking a certain course of action. We arrived at 250. At the time, that was basically a little more than one a month for the analysts we had on our team. And so we got out there and we set a target. Now, this was kind of the easy part, because what is influencing a decision? This was the next challenge. We knew we wanted to have influence, and we spent a lot of time working with the team. We originally had this big, long definition of like influencing a decision is the so what of the work you're doing. Because what we knew is we wanted to take teams that maybe today would work with us and say, hey, Drew, can you give me all of my NPS detractor comments, and switch them to more of a job where we were working with them to say, hey, what can we do or what should we do to improve our NPS? So what we ended up arriving on after some months, so no, this wasn't an instant process that we figured out right away, was that influencing a decision means recommending a course of action. So we want to do projects that end with us telling a product team, this is what you should do to improve your NPS, this is what you should do to improve your retention, this is who you should contact because these are at-risk customers. All of these kinds of questions, where maybe yesterday it was more like, throw me some data and we'll see where it lands. The second thing we did to make sure this works is we added a new item into ADO, which is actually a decision. And ADO, as your DevOps, that's what we use to track our epics, our tasks, all that sort of stuff. So then our analysts can have their decisions, they can attach the work items they're doing to that decision as well, and then it enables me to go and pull up ADO and say, hey, here's the big list of things we're influencing across the organization, which as a new team is a very powerful tool. Again, though, it wasn't as simple as just saying, all right, now we have a decision, let's go and influence decisions. There was a pile of nuance here. And I'm showing you all these details just to make sure that, I'm not up here saying, oh, it was super easy and it's a walk in the park and it could be for you. It took a lot of work. First of all, there was definitely a lot of policing. So my team gets together every week to talk about the work items. One week we do a quick sprint review. The next week we do in detail. And I'm pretty sure that if you talk to my analysts, they got really tired of hearing me say, hey, what's the decision on this? But it didn't take that long before we actually got to the point where everyone knew what decisions they were working on. And then there were also a whole pile of different edge cases we had to address. What if I recommend we do nothing? Well, actually, that's kind of great. That's going to save us time, money, where we can do something else. Yeah, a decision to do nothing absolutely counts. Okay, well, what if I've got this big project and there's multiple decisions? Can I count those? And again, here what it really came down to is what do we want to encourage? And if I can encourage my analysts to dig into their work and get as much value out of it as possible, that is a win. So absolutely, go into your projects, call out as many recommendations as you have. It might feel like someone's trying to game the system, but really, we're just creating more value. So that helped a lot too. How do we handle dashboards? This was another one. Well, and with dashboards, we realized we do want our team members to invest in these kind of big projects that will create value over time. So what we do is we'd count decisions quarterly. We have to do a quarterly update. So we would say, you know what, when you get that dashboard done, and you've built it knowing what decisions it's going to influence, you can count those against your count right away. Because I know it's taken you a while to do this. It was a big project. And then when you go back to it later, count them again. And this, again, we're now encouraging everyone to go back and look at and use their dashboards. So we get a lot less stagnant old dashboards than we would have seen and that I've seen in other organizations. And then finally, the biggest one, well, what happens if one of our partner teams doesn't end up taking the advice we give them or act on it? And we realize there is a whole world outside of customer behavior that also needs to be factored in. There's our plans, there's when AI came along and we had to drop everything and switch to do a whole bunch of different stuff. So it's perfectly fine if a partner team decides not to act on our decision. But obviously, these are close partners of ours, and we make sure that when we're starting things up, we are focusing on things they will likely act on. But the world can change. We've all seen that happen quite a bit. Okay, so we figured out we're going to measure decisions. This is how we're going to do it. How do we actually get anyone else to care, though? So here was step 3, and it was engaging our partner teams. So I mentioned before, Thompson Reuters, huge organization. At any moment in time, we have products that are getting built, basically in their prime, getting sunset, all over the place. So one of the things we actually built was this Pendo application form. And this might seem like a bit of work, but we actually found it creates a lot of solid engagement with our teams, and they go from that old state of saying, well, I'm going to look through the complaints from my detractors, or I'm going to understand what features are popular or unpopular, to, hey, I have this upcoming development decision, and it would really help if I knew what the top 10 features were so I know what I should do. You can see there as well, although we don't say that like money or dollars are the ultimate thing we're counting, we do leave room for them. And the way we would look at this is like a use case. We'd want the description, when you're actually going to do it, and then either a connection to your overall goals or a connection to revenue. We would accept one or the other. But we did have to make sure this stuff mattered, which was pretty key there. Onboarding, migration, retention, ease of use, these were all common things. And then as well in the bottom, in the product details, this was kind of like the cost. So if something was of high strategic importance, it could get priority. If it used a ton of MAUs, we would ask for them to have a few more use cases as well. And then my favorite one was the support plan. So what we did is the support plan got a value of 0 if they didn't have a good support plan, or 1 if they did, and then it got multiplied by the rest of their score. So basically, if you didn't have the infrastructure in place to actually go and use this stuff, then we'll come back and we'll meet again when you're ready for that. The second thing as well is when we actually work with our product teams, projects start with understanding how they're going to use our work. We do have a formal documented intake form, but it's optional to use. Often we just talk through that. But again, it's all about making sure our teams are ready to act on this information. And here is the cool part, because this feels like process. I was apprehensive about forms and intake forms and all this. But actually, product teams, because sometimes product managers, they knew they needed to use data for decisions, but they didn't always know how. Well, what we ended up hearing was, thank you for helping me put some thought into how I'm actually going to go and use this, because my boss is telling me to use data, and now I'm actually going to have something to deliver at the end of the quarter and the end of the year. And we quickly became partners instead of just Pendo administrators. It really helped. And then second, for my analysts, now they were empowered to go and focus on projects that were actually going to have impact and influence decisions. And I got to be the excuse for them to avoid low impact work. Hey, I'm really sorry, but Drew won't let me work on anything unless there's a decision involved. So we made sure the caliber of the projects we were doing immediately went up. Now, mind you, not absolutely everything had to be a decision. Sometimes somebody just needs a data pull. That's okay. We're going to enable that. But we made sure the vast majority of stuff we were doing and the stuff we were talking about was actually influencing decisions. All right, so we figured out what to measure, how to measure it, how to engage other teams. Now, how do we actually demonstrate these results, right? This was a key problem I was trying to solve for. So one of the things my product teams do is QBRs. So we have different product families. They have to do a quarterly business review. We also participate in that. And what we figured out was we could use this quarterly business review to put together these kind of bite-sized summaries of decisions that we've influenced. So if somebody was on a different product team or a senior leader in a product family, they could very quickly see how we've gone and helped them. This is a simple example of it. So we were redesigning tax product. We did a deep dive on a certain feature, revealed that it wasn't getting used much, recommended that they could sunset that feature. Very simple and bite-sized. What we'd then do, too, is we take this big quarterly document with all of the different decisions in it and just make a quick summary email. So I'd pick the top 6 to 8 decisions, give some appreciate points to those who were a part of those as well. And it would just say something like, yeah, we helped tax product understand they could sunset this feature based on low usage data. And now those who are interacting with us or getting that email can see very quickly how analytics can help them and how we help this product. And then the third thing we also really do is we use this decision framework to go and talk to senior leaders. So we often work really closely with product managers, and then we'll hold sessions with the directors, the VPs, the heads to brainstorm different things. And we can basically just list off, hey, here's all the decisions that we helped with for your team. And a product head maybe doesn't know the nuts and bolts of how things are getting done on a day-to-day basis, but they remember, oh yeah, we did sunset that feature in tax product. Okay, awesome, thank you. And they really quickly get to see how we've helped. So demonstrating results within our teams has worked really, really, really well here. There was one other item we do as well. For key projects, we also have product analytics reports. Where we basically write up in detail and have a searchable library that you can go in and say, oh, what are we doing in Westlaw, or what should we do for UX? And here you can also call out, too, if you're part of one of those $20 million projects, since we still call out the value there as well. So this is another artifact we do. And then these are often used to show results to our teams, especially for certain programs we have, like usage forecasting. Now, those are the results of the decisions, but remember, I got to show results to the company and my boss and all of this. So how did that end up? Well, it actually went very, very well. So in 2023, we absolutely proved the investment of product analytics. We influenced 341 decisions, and I was able to end the year by showing my boss, look at all this stuff we did. He was happy. I wasn't always a senior director, so it worked out well for me as well, since I know, we always got that in the back of our mind. I should call it out. But even more important than that, the really cool thing we did is we're this new centralized team, and a lot of people didn't know how to work with us. And we found that we really just simplified the engagement with product analytics. We kind of ended the, well, what can you do? What do you need? These weird discussions, and said, what decisions do you have coming up? What are your goals? What are you trying to influence? And that helped a ton and grew our team very quickly and made us very influential within TR, faster than a lot of people expected. And then finally, we also earned a few fans. So we work really closely with our UX research team. And that team, we work with them on the CXO program. So we have metrics around like a jobs to be done format for maybe how long things are taking or how successful people are at different tasks. And I've actually learned that the UX research team now uses this decision framework in order to measure the impact of the CXO program. And they just completed another 170 decisions over the past few quarters. And we get a little bit of credit for that too, because we're a part of that as well. So it's been really effective. And yes, I do show up to those calls where everyone's showing off their $20 million dashboards and talk about the decisions we've influenced. And I can tell you, I know that the head of all of our analytics is a big fan of what we're doing and how we're showing impact. So it is working in that environment as well. Okay, last items here. How are we going to iterate on this? Because the decision framework's been great for us to show value, but it's also transactional. The other thing, though, is we've built these great relationships with our product teams now. They trust us. They trust us to work on their stuff. They trust us to give them recommendations. So we went back to our mission, and we realized we're very, very heavy on the influencing decisions, but maybe a little bit lighter on this concept of empowering TR to achieve our objectives. So what we're focusing on in the future, in this year and next year, and maybe if I don't get the rights to Seussical again, I'll talk about this next year as well and let you know how it went. We're starting to focus a lot more on building relationships around measurable goals and metrics. So our product teams, they all have to go through this gauntlet to get funding for their projects every year. And this results in a lot of documentation that we figure, hey, if we can make a product that operates in this way, and it's fast and it's accurate, people will go and buy it. So what we can then do is we can say, okay, well, it sounds like you have a hypothesis around fast and accurate. We can build metrics for that. And then independently of you, we can tear apart your product. We can show you where the inaccuracies are, where we can show you where it's slow, and we can come back and say, hey, if you're trying to drive this outcome, which we know you are, we've identified 5 things you should do in order to make your product faster. So now we're able to actually go and influence decisions that are directly connected with our goals independently. And the product teams start to trust us to do this because they saw we spent the last 2 years creating impact for them already. So that's also part of why we took this whole bottom-up approach. You could potentially do this first. Just depends on the relationships you have. That's ultimately up to you. And then finally, because it is 2024 and I am on stage at a conference, I do have to mention using AI. So the other thing we are also doing is to do some of this at scale. We're using a lot more AI modeling. So we have models around usage forecasting to help our products understand their server requirements at scale. We're working on retention modeling, cross-sell, upsell, all sorts of different things using in-product data. And the goal there is for us to be able to scale that work so we don't have to do decisions just one at a time. Okay. So if you would like to demonstrate the impact of your awesome analytics work, 5 steps for you. You can apply them the way I did in the decision framework, or look to your own mission and see what you're really here to achieve. 1, determine what you're actually trying to deliver. 2, figure out how to measure it. 3, engage your partner teams. 4, demonstrate and communicate results. And 5, go back to your mission and try to iterate on what you're doing. And the cool thing is that not only will you demonstrate the impact of your awesome work, along the way, you might actually drive some culture change too. So, thank you.
Thank you.